Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Shunvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayantastaiva dhrani Vidhunoti Susatam Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, Text 46. Ayam tu Brahmana Kalpaha Ayam tu Brahmana Kalpaha Savikalpa Udarataha Vidhisadhurano yatra Vidhisadharano yatra Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udarataha Vidhisadharano yatra Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udarataha Vidhisadharano yatra Sargaha prakrito vaikritaha Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udarataha Vidhisadharano yatra Sargo prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udarataha Vidhisadharano yatra Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udarataha Vidhisadharano yatra Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha
Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha
Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha
Savikalpa udarataha
Savikalpa udarataha
Vidhisadharano yatra
Vidhisadharano yatra
Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha
Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha Ayam tu brahmana kalpaha Savikalpa udarataha Vidhisadharano yatra Sargaha prakrita vaikritaha Word to word reading. This process of creation and annihilation to but Brahmana or Brahma Kalpaha is one day. Savikaha along with the duration of the universes. Buddharataha, exemplified, Vidhi, regulative principles, Sadharana, in summary, Yatra, wherein, Sarga, creation, Prakrita, in the matter of material nature, Vaikrita, disbursement. Translation: this process of creation and annihilation described in summary herein is the regulative principle. During the duration of Brahma's one day, it is also the regulative principle in the creation of Mahat, in which the material nature is dispersed. Translation, please repeat. This process of creation and annihilation described in summary herein is the regulative principle during the duration of Brahma's one day. It is also the regulative principle in the creation of Mahat, in which the material nature is dispersed. There are three different types of creation called Mahakalpa, Vikalpa, and Kalpa. In the Mahakalpa, the Lord assumes the first Purusha incarnation as Karana Dakshai Vishnu with all the potencies of the Mahatattva and the 16 principles of creative matter and instruments. The creative instruments are 11, the ingredients are 5, and all of them are products of Mahat, the materialistic ego. These creations by the Lord in his feature of Karana Dakshai Vishnu are called Mahakalpa. The creation of Brahma and dispersion of the material ingredients are called Vikalpa, and the creation by Brahma in each day of his life is called Kalpa. Therefore, each day of Brahma is called a Kalpa, and there are 30 Kalpas in terms of Brahma's days. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8:17 as follows. Sahasrayuga paryantam aharyat brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam eho ratra vido janaha. In the upper planetary system, the duration of one complete day and night is equal to one complete year of this earth. This is accepted even by the modern scientists and attested by the astronauts. Similarly, in the region of still higher planetary systems, the duration of day and night is still greater than in the heavenly planets. The 4 yugas are calculated in terms of the heavenly calendars and accordingly are 12,000 years in terms of the heavenly planets. This is called a Divya Yuga, and 1,000 Divya Yugas make one day of Brahma. The creation during one day of Brahma is called Kalpa, and the creation of Brahma is called Vikalpa. When Vikalpas are made possible by the breathing of Mahavishnu, this is called a Mahakalpa. There are regular and systematic cycles of those Mahakalpas, Vikalpas, and Kalpas. In answer to Maharaj Parikshit's question about them, Shukadeva Goswami answered in the Prabhasa Khanda of the Skanda Purana. They are as follows. Can you please turn off the fan? Patama Shveta Kalpascha Dvitiyo Nila Lohitaha Amadevas Tityastu Tato Gathantaro Paraha Gauravaha Panchamaha Proktaha Shashtaha Prana Iti Smitaha Saptamokta Brihat Kalpa Kandarposhtama Uchyate Sadyato Nava Mahakalpa Ishano Dashama Smitaha Dhyana Ekadasha Proktas Brahma Sarasvato Paraha Trayodasha Udanastu Garudotta Chaturdashaha Kaumaha Panchadashodnya Oranamasi Prajapate Shurasho Narasimhastu Samadhistu Tatoparaha Agneyo Vishnu Janasauraha Soma Kalpastatoparaha Bhavimsho Bhavana Proktaha Supuma Iti Chaparaha Vaikunthascharti Shastadvat Bali Kalpastatoparaha Saptavimshotta Vairajo Gauri Kalpastataparaha Maheshwarastatha Proktas Vipyo Yatra Bhatitaha Pitrikalpastatha Chante Yaku Brahmana Smita. Therefore, the 30 kalpas of Brahma are Shveta Kalpa, Mila Lohita, Vamadev, Gatantara, Raurava, Prana, Yat Kalpa, Kandarpa, Sadyotva, Ishana, Dhyana, Sarasvata, Udana, Garuda, Kaurma, Narasimha, Samadhi, Agneya, Vishnuja, Saura, Somakalpa, Bhavana, Sukuma, Vaikuntha, Archisha, Valikalpa, Vairaja, Gaurikalpa, Maheshwara, Vaikukalpa. These are Brahma's day only, and he has to live months and years up to 100. So we can just imagine how many creations there are in kalpas only. Then again, there are vikalpas which are generated by the breathing of Mahavishnu, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. Yasyaika nishvasata kala mathavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha. The Brahmas live only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu. So the exhaling and inhaling of Vishnu are Mahakalpas, and all these are due to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for no one else is the master of all creations. Om Jnanatiran Hasyanan Janashalakaya Chakshurlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Rangayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatayam. Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Saptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasati Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpataru Vyashtra Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are in this second chapter, verse 10, text 46. Ayam tu brahmanaha kalpaha savikalpa udarataha vidihi sadharana yatra sargaha prakrita vaikritaha. So this word sarga, it's like we saw in the earlier canto. The first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is mentioned as, or is called as, what? You just said the word sarga, which is creation, or the primary creation, and then the second canto is the Visarga, which is the secondary creation. And who's the secondary creator in that sense? What are we talking about?
Brahma.
Wake up. Lord Brahma is the secondary creation of the creator, and this second canto is also termed as Visarga, or the secondary creation. This whole creation of the cosmic manifestation of the different universes, and this particular universe which we are, the topmost planet, which is Brahmaloka, the Brahma is having how many heads? Chaturmukhi, so four-headed Brahma, or Chatur. And we see how in previous verses, just like yesterday's verse, it said, Ayam tu, yesterday was text 45, and we saw, it says that there is no direct engineer by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. So in one sense, Brahma is the engineer for this material, or the material world when it is created. Brahma is the creator, and like it says in this verse, Kalpa, Vikalpa. So Vikalpa, starting from Vikalpa is Brahma's creation. Starting from Kalpa, Vikalpa is Mahavishnu, then Kalpa, and there is one more. And then it says, what is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea, so this is, it speaks about Vishnu or Krishna, that material nature is the creator. And we saw in the purport how Prabhupada is explaining, or he's quoting the verse, Maya Dekshana Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam, that this Prakriti or the material nature is working under my instruction, Adhyakshana. As the word used is supervision, under my supervision. So for certain people, or most people, it may appear that Brahma is the original creator, right? When we see, or most of the time, those who don't have, most of those, or in the devotee community, we at least know about the different stages of creation. But generally, the general mass of people, they say, or they think that material nature, Prakriti, is the creator, right? That's why we celebrate, what is that, Earth Day, right? Mother Nature or Mother Earth. We give this upadhi, or designation, to Mother Earth, thinking that she is the creator. But Krishna is saying, Maya Adhyakshana, that under my supervision, this material nature is working. So similarly, Brahma, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavai, that we see that when Brahma was born, he was not born just like us. In the previous verses, we see how the connection, when even the child is born, there's a connection between the navel, there's a cord, what is that, umbilical cord, which connects the child and the mother. So similarly, we see that same connection, that when Brahma was born, the lotus sprung from the navel of Mahavishnu, and the stem of the lotus kept growing, and then there was lotus flower, and on top of that, Lord Brahma was born. And he's not born just like the ordinary people, when there is some physical union between two bodies, but just by the glance, although Lakshmi Devi was sitting in front of the Lord, she was massaging his feet. At the same time, Brahma is born, so that is to be noted that he's not the ordinary personality. And herein we see, it says this verse, our previous verse says that the Lord is directly interfering. He says there is interference is simply, so why is the Lord interfering? We see in Bhagavad Gita also there are different reasons that Lord or Krishna comes, right? Yada yada idhamasya, that whenever there is decline in the religious principles, Krishna appears, right? And then Paritranaya sadhuna, to deliver these sadhus or the pious and to punish the miscreants. Vinashaya chatushkritam, that he is coming to do all this, but he is also coming to show sometimes, like we see in the 10th canto, that how Brahma's illusion was destroyed, or one of the reasons that Krishna comes is to also show that he's the boss. Right? Like in the office, sometimes people are negligent, or the managers, they think that they are the boss. So the main boss, who's the owner of the company, when he comes, then everybody is in order. Right? So that's also the reason that Krishna comes, to show that he is the boss. And I remember back when we were, I young, maybe in my teens, probably we were, I think, 14 or 15. So in our friend circle, we had this one of our friend. I think we were like, he was my classmate or schoolmate. So we used to go every weekend, like in Mumbai. If anybody gone to Mumbai, there's this famous snack called vada pav. You heard of vada pav? Yeah. It's like a Indian burger. We have burgers here, but it's a vegetarian and it's from aloo, potato, and between the slice of bread. So that was our, because we didn't have much money in the sense we are in the school, so whatever little pocket money we get, so we have turns and we treat each other, 4 or 5 friends gathering together. But one of our friend, he was, all of a sudden, he started treating us every alternate days. He would say, okay, let's go today, we're doing vada pavs, tomorrow we're doing bhaji pav, and then there's one particular drink. It's kind of a version of shave ice. You have shave ice here in America. So in India we have gola. We call it gola, and it's harder. It's not soft like the shave ice. It's like a harder version of the ice. You make a round ball with a stick inside and dip it in the juice, different kind of flavors. So we go. So all of our friends, we were wondering like, how come every other day he's inviting us? We hardly have any money on us. And then he said, oh, you know what? I got a new job. He said, we are all school students. How come you got a job? Actually, he was actually in one sense he was like a street smart. And all of our friends, we all were very naive. He was like street smart, and he got the job and working as a computer. And those days, working in computer field was like, oh wow, he must be making really good money. So we said, oh, okay, good, great. We were concerned with just having the parties, of course, vegetarian parties, not like hard alcohol or anything, because we were still in school. And all of a sudden, maybe after a month or two, all the parties stopped, and we said, hey, what happened? He said, you know what? Actually, my boss is back in town. He said, so what? Said, no, because when he was away, I was skimming on the top because he was in some pharmaceutical distributor. So he was kind of a person who was doing all the entries in the computer. And somehow the cash entries he was not doing. Right? He was just keeping the cash in his pocket, and that's how he was treating us. But then when the boss came, somehow I think the boss was out of town. He was in America or somewhere, so he came after 2-3 months. And then, as soon as the boss came, he couldn't do that because the boss would come and check every now and then. So that checking part is required. And so Krishna also comes and says or shows that yes, he is here. I'm the boss, and that's why sometimes we forget to see that. It says Krishna is giving the example in 7:7 of Bhagavad Gita that Mai Protam Idam Sarvam Sutre Mani Ganaiva. Just like we see this necklace, right? We see mostly just the beads, but what is holding all the beads together? The thread, right? The sutra. So we forget to see the sutra and thinking that the beads are all in all. So Krishna has to come to show sometimes the sutra is there, the sutradhar or the director or the boss is here. So he's coming to show that. And now in this particular or this current verse, basically it describes the lifespan of Brahma. Ayam tu brahmanaha kalpaha, savikalpaha. So we have Mahakalpa, Vikalpa, and Kalpa. So what is Mahakalpa? The creation by Vishnu. And then Vikalpa is Brahma's creation. And then the Kalpa. Kalpa is the Brahma's day. That's what it says here. It says, therefore each day of Brahma is called a Kalpa, and there are 30 Kalpas in terms of Brahma's days. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 8:17. So let's see what it says in 8:17. This is a little technical but interesting. So here, 8:17, please repeat after me. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Like to read the translation soon.
By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together from the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night.
Is it visible, the purport?
Oh, very tiny.
Can you?
Yeah.
You come for the...
I just need to go a little bit to the right. Yeah. The duration of the material universe is limited. It is manifested in cycles of kalpas. A kalpa is a day of Brahma. And one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas or ages: Satya, Treta, Dwapar, and Kali. This cycle of Satya is characterized by virtue, wisdom, and religion. There being practically no ignorance and vice, and the yuga lasts 1,728,000 years. In the Treta Yuga, vice is introduced, and this yuga lasts 1,296,000 years. In the Dwapar Yuga, there is an even greater decline in virtue and religion, vice increasing, and this yuga lasts 864,000 years. And finally, in Kali Yuga, the yuga we have now been experiencing over the past 5,000 years, there is an abundance of strife, ignorance, irreligion, and vice. True virtue being practically non-existent. And this yuga lasts 432,000 years. In Kali Yuga, vice increases to such a point that at the termination of the yuga, the Supreme Lord himself appears as the Kalki avatar, vanquishes the demons, saves his devotees, and commences another Satya Yuga. Then the process is set rolling again. These 4 yugas, rotating 1,000 times, comprise one day of Brahma, and the same number comprise one night. Brahma lives 100 of such years and then dies. These 100 years, by Earth calculations, total to 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. By these calculations, the life of Brahma seems fantastic and interminable. But from the viewpoint of eternity, it is as brief as a lightning flash. In the casual ocean, there are innumerable Brahmas rising and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. Brahma and his creation are all part of the material universe, and therefore they are in constant flux.
So here it says that how Brahma's lifespan is so big. It says 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. So if you put 1 and I don't know how many zeros you would put to put this figure, 311 trillion and 40 billion. It's like earlier it says 432,000 years, which is the current yuga, which is the Kali Yuga, and then it keeps doubling. 864, the next 1 million, 1.2 is the Treta, and 1.7 is the. So one may think that, oh, why? Even because in the current verse also it gives that detailed names of all the, says Shukadeva Goswami from Prabhasa Khanda of Skanda Puran is mentioning all the kalpas, and the names of the kalpas are given. It says the 30 kalpas of Brahma, starting from Shweta Kalpa up to Paitra Kalpa. So one may wonder that. Right. So anyone may have a question that why one has to maintain, in Bhagavatam, of course, his glories of Krishna, his devotees, and so many important topics. What is the need to mention in detail all these kalpas or vikalpas, or even the names? So this is mostly for those or the inquisitive mind. Of course, for the devotees, we don't really need to know. If we know, it's well and good, but if not, that's fine too. But there will always be inquisitive minds, or there will always be scientists, or there will always be the doubting minds, and for them, there is this branch of Vedas, also called as, what is the word? Astronomy. The word in Sanskrit is Jyotish Shastra. So Jyotish Shastra, you can see, even if you see the calculations of the distances or the locations of different planets, when we compare to what the modern scientists have discovered and what the Jyotish Shastra or the Puranas or whatever the Vedic knowledge has, it almost is similar. The distance between Earth and the, like up to the point in certain cases. So, when Prabhupada says that because our process is descending process, we just accept whatever the Shastra says, and Shastra has everything in perfect, in complete order. So, like here it says, all this mention, or all the kalpas are mentioned, all the names of the kalpas are mentioned. And nowadays there's a big fad among the rich people, or those who are filthy rich. You must have heard all these big companies, they are putting so much money in space travel, right? All this, what is that? Mr. Jeff, Mr. That Tesla guy, Elon, and the other Virgin Atlantic guy. And this Virgin Atlantic, they even came up with a, you can pay, I think, $150,000 or something and book your seat on the space shuttle, which is going to go up in 2025. Would you like to go?
I want to take a post-dated check.
So this is the curiosity, about the space, about the other planetary systems. Although, we see how Prabhupada mentions in that book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, that we cannot go there by our material instruments or material spacecrafts, or even by any other material means. And it goes on to describe that how one has to go to different planets through the process of Bhakti Yoga. And we can see actually there's interesting book, Gopakumar, what is that book? Srimad Bhagavatam, that how he's traveling, through these different planetary systems and all these wonderful activities he's seeing in all these different varieties of planets. So here, the conclusion, to conclude, it says in the last para, it says, Yasyeka nishvasita kala mathavalambya jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur mahan sahira yasya kala vishesho govindamadi purusham. That's again the prayer of Lord Brahma. We can chant this beautiful Yasyeka nishvasita kala mathavalambya Jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanatha Vishnur mahan sarihayasya kala vishesho Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Brahma and other lords of the mundane worlds appearing from the pores of hair of Mahavishnu remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of the latter Mahavishnu. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whose subjective personality Mahavishnu is a portion of portion. And it is only one line purport by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. It says, the supreme majesty of the subjective nature of Vishnu is shown here. And I was thinking the other reason also that all these details are given of Brahma's lifespan, this vast or immense lifespan of Brahma, is also for us to understand that what are we compared to the lifespan, or what is our lifespan when we compare. It's like they have this term in chemistry, it's negligible, right? Negligible. And you don't even consider that. Right? Even when we see in the map of, let's say, North America, and we try to see Hawaii, what is Hawaii? Just a few dots, right? So what is the existence of ours? And compare, to the lifespan of Brahma. So in a nutshell, it is to point out to us the seriousness of the lifespan which we have, to use it in a cultivation of Krishna consciousness, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Ratna Bija. That is whole Brahmanda, just like it says before this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Sahasrayuga Parinam, there is another verse which says from the topmost planet of Brahma down to the, what is that verse? I have Brahma Bhuvana Aloka Punaravatino Janaha. It's right here. We'll just chant it real quick. Oh, it's before this. Brahma Bhuvana Aloka Punaravatino Janaha. Says, okay, please chant. Brahma Bhuvana Aloka Punaravatino Janaha. Namupekyetu Kaunteya Janma Vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But one who attains to my abode, a son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So this is like an eye-opener. That despite of such a vast lifespan, even Brahma has to die, right? So what to speak of us? And we see that how it's described in this purport that there's so many kalpas or so many, actually it's like layer after layer. So there's Brahma's creation, annihilation and destruction happening in Brahma's days and then out of that already we come to the next stage of Mahavishnu's creation and destruction, right? Exhaling and inhaling, he is creating and destructing. So the point to take home is that not to waste our this short life that which we have got. Life is short, make it sweet with Krishna. Right? That's what they say. life is short, make it sweet with Krishna. So with that note, I'll end here, unless anybody has anything to add further or any questions or comments, because we are out of time. Any quick questions? I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also wrote this book, what is that, Surya Siddhanta, about the astronomy, or the different aspects of the Surya or sun god, the sun. So I'll read the verse once again. This process of creation and annihilation described in summary herein is the regulative principle during the duration of Brahma's one day, is also the regulative principle in the creation of Mahat, in which the material nature is dispersed. Alright, so last call for questions. Nothing? Because it's very technical, right? It's everything there, all the figures. How many? We have to remember this one, 300, what is that, billion? What was that? Let's just remember this figure here. Lifespan of Brahma, how many trillion and billion? 311 trillion and 40 billion Earth years. Okay, this is pretty good. 311 trillion and
400,000?
40 billion.
40 million.
It says here 311 trillion and 40 billion. 311 trillion, 40 billion. 311. Yes, thank you very much, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sharira Vidya Jarendya Taheka, Jive File Vishaya Sagare, Tarmudde Jivati, Logamaya Siddharmati, Takade Takagina Samsare, Krishna Vadodoyamai, Varibare Jivajai, Swaprasadan Nidilovai, Sri Namrita Pavo, Radha Krishna Gurgaon, Evirago Chaitanya Nitai,